Welcome, welcome everybody. How are you doing today? It's so very nice to have you here. Inquiry is a very powerful and a very direct way to address and meet the arising past. And when I say the past, I mean unmet, unfinished tendencies. So when past arises, it shows up in our physiology. And that means we are going to experience it as thoughts, feelings, sensations, emotions. And as you know already, it's very easy to get caught in the momentum of the arising past, or get involved in the content of it, which is what I call the story. That is why we practice sensation-based inquiry. Because sensation gives the mind just enough stability for a moment to stop. And sensation becomes then a very direct entryway to presence. And also, noticing sensations is a very direct way to communicate with the nervous system and the brain. So discrimination is the first step of inquiry. And when I say discrimination, I mean to recognize past for what it is. You know, so often I say half of our work is done already when we can say, this is the past. I have seen this before, you know, I know that this is the past. Let me just be here. Let me be present. So a sensitive nervous system is very easily affected by the arising past. You know, a nervous system in general is easily affected, but a sensitive nervous system even more. So easily affected by the arising past, easily affected by the inner or outer environment, very easily affected by the events in life, by what is going on in life. So we often come into this life already with a sensitive nervous system. We could remember these are the tendencies that bring us here, right? So there's already the imprints for a sensitive nervous system. Or, you know, and both can be true. You know, the nervous system is shaped by our environment, is shaped by our experience. So if we were growing up in an unstable environment or inconsistent environment, you know, if we have experienced challenging events in life, if there has been trauma, that is going to shape the sensitive nervous system. Now, recognizing the sensitive nervous system for what it is the first step to our ability to really be here. Because, you know, based on the tendencies of our past, of course, we often have habits of rejecting the sensitivity, right? Or wanting it to be different, like with anything else. So the moment you can recognize a sensitive nervous system and you can say, yep, that's how it is, right? That really begins growing of our capacity to be here. And also, that's a very first step to successful inquiry, right? To recognize things just the way they are. And in general in life, recognizing a sensitive nervous system for what it is, learning about the true yes and no, is going to help us to navigate life's circumstances. Because again, based on the past, we so often want it to be different, right? We don't want this nervous system to be so reactive, right? Or we don't want it to be so easily affected, right? And yet the more we learn about it, the more we recognize it for what it is, the more we can say, you know, the more we can say this is how it is, the more we are going to grow our capacity to be here. So supporting a sensitive nervous system in inquiry means to learn even more experientially to learn more skills of how to be present to what arises here, how to help the nervous system and the brain to be here, right? Because it's, it sounds so easy, be here, but it's not always so easy, especially when there's a lot of sensitivity, and we learn this experientially, right? Through practice, from your own experience. We have learned so much already, and there's so much more to learn about how to be here with that sensitivity, right? But also supporting a sensitive nervous system in inquiry means to become even more skilled or even more able to identify and notice the states that arise here, and to learn to be present to it with kindness, with tenderness, with no expectation. Because this is again our conditioning, right? Our conditioning is when, things are difficult, when something doesn't go well, or when it's challenging to be in life because of a sensitive nervous system, right? We tend to want it to be different. We tend to want to deny it, push through, or make it different in some way, right? And that, of course, in your mind, in our mind, that is what grows capacity. We think this is what's going to grow capacity if we push through, or if we, deny it in some way or suppress it in some way, right? But true capacity comes with the willingness to learn, to recognize even more clearly the states that arise here, and be present to it with kindness, with tenderness, and with no expectation. No expectation that it's going to change, no expectation that it's going to be different, just for its own sake, Be here just for its own sake. So I will be speaking about this and more in our upcoming program, and we're also going to do a lot of practical things. So I hope to see you there.